let me, oh, where's the record button? Okay, pause, stop. Okay, now let's go ahead and begin. I'll just go ahead and do a quick intro. And thank you for joining us on Axe Radio. I am Young Kim, and we are here with a very special guest today. And if you've ever heard of the trio Barclay, it's comprised of the violinist Denis Kim, the cellist Jonah Kim, and pianist Sean Kennard. And it's an ensemble that does music a little bit differently. It's big music personalities that's joined together, and they want to do a bit more dynamic stuff. The classical music scene, as far as I know, is not that popular unless you're really into it or you've been exposed to it from an early age. But that's something that I think can be changed with the right type of, I guess, ensemble to put it together. And joining us is Mr. Denis Kim. Hey, how are you?
Great, thanks for having me. I don't think anyone's heard of the trio Barclay because we're brand new, and this is our debut recital. So if anyone's heard of us, that would be a shock. But yeah, like you said, we're trying to reach new audiences and trying to reach different parts of the community, especially down here in Orange County.
I mean, okay, first of all, how did you handle this whole pandemic thing? I mean, after this whole pandemic, or now that it's coming sort of to a semi, I guess not closure, I don't want to say that, but we're getting somewhere. We're making some advances with it. Did that kind of entice you to bring this whole thing together, or was it something that you had planned and it was cut short by the pandemic and then you just got back on it?
Right, so I've been talking to Jerry Mandel, who's the big boss at Barclay, and different people involved, and we were planning on starting a series at the Barclay Theater, but with COVID, everything shut down. So we've been dying to get back, and it's going to be amazing because this will be the first concert with live audience and with actual people, not zoomed and not online. So
And not
we're really excited to be
cutouts,
back.
right?
Yeah, exactly. So we're really excited to be back and to play for people. And I know a lot of audience members are dying to get back into the live music also.
I definitely agree. I mean, there's already a lot of activity as we speak outside, and people want to go to these live performances. How did you guys come together, Denis? I mean, first let's introduce yourself and tell us how you got into the classical realm of music.
So I'm originally from Toronto. So like many immigrant parents, we used to have a store. And I remember I was 4 years old. It was in the summertime, and I was just hanging out at the store. And some father walked in with his son, and he's carrying a violin case. And my dad was like, "Hey, what is that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a violin." And oh, and who does he study with? And really, that's all it was. It was just totally by chance. And I met an amazing teacher. And then of course I went on to meet many more amazing teachers, but I've had a lot of support from of course my parents, but these incredibly inspiring teachers have helped me. So from a young age, that's what I did. I played violin, and then at the age of 16, I got into the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia. So from that point on, I knew that this is what I was going to be doing. And from a young age, I knew that I loved it. I didn't know if I was good enough to do this for a living, but I guess getting into Curtis was kind of the reassurance that maybe I could do this for a living.
Well, not maybe. I mean, you got into one of the best schools in music.
Yeah, no, it was of course lucky. Everyone at Curtis, of course, they always joke, if I auditioned again next year, would I get in? And nobody says with 100% assurance that they would. Huh. But yeah, going from Curtis, I went to Yale, and again, I had great teachers, very supportive, very encouraging teachers who helped me along the way. And yeah, I've had some lucky breaks, of course. Lucky positions opened up at certain times. So I've had a chance to play all over the world. So I'm very grateful.
So how did you come together with your partners that you formed this trio Barclay with?
Right. So first of all, we're all graduates of the Curtis Institute of Music. We didn't all graduate at the same time. I'm a little bit older than the guys, other two, but so we all come from the same kind of backing, musical education. But we've worked separately in different festivals throughout the world, in Hong Kong, in Delaware, in California. And I guess most recently, we performed in a festival in Delaware. We were like, wow, this would be fantastic. And we actually decided to make a CD. And so that's how this started. And then Barclay Theater coming in saying, we would love for you guys to perform here, and maybe even 3 times a year, which is for someone like us, just a dream, to have this kind of relationship with a major hall. So that's how this all became, how this all started. Of course, without the leadership of people like Jerry Mandel and Carol Choi, who are big supporters, I mean, none of this could happen. There are a lot of trios out there, for them to support us and to give us this opportunity. That's the lucky break that we've had, and hopefully this will be the beginning of a long relationship.
I always had sort of a question. Like there's a trio, and then there's like an ensemble, and then there's like some kind of like I don't know, some kind of cabinet orchestra or something. There's all these different terms that are out there. So a trio, your trio consists of a pianist as well as a cellist and a violinist, right?
So it's a piano trio is a piano, violin, and cello. And then
Okay.
there's a string trio, which is a violin, viola, and a cello. And
Uh-huh.
then, of course, there are many other combinations of trios, but those were the main instruments that composers wrote for. So Haydn wrote, 5 million trios for this combination of piano, violin, and cello. Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Brahms, all of them wrote for this this group of instruments. So, and this concert coming up in June, we'll be playing Dvorak and Shostakovich, two composers that everyone knows. And then we're doing actually a world premiere of a composer named Sheridan Seyfried, who is a good friend of all three of us, who's also a Curtis graduate, of course. But this is a brand new piece written specifically for this concert. So we're really excited, and hopefully the audience loves it. I hope they're not scared of new music. I mean, this is tonal, it's beautiful, it's something that you can sing, it's not noises and squeaks. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm really excited about all three of the pieces.
All right. So Dennis, you're the concertmaster of the Pacific Symphony, right? I mean, we didn't mention
That's right.
that, but can you tell our listeners what a concertmaster does? I mean, I know I'm asking a lot of elementary schools questions when it comes to the world of classical music. I mean, like, how does one become a concertmaster, and what exactly is a concertmaster?
No, these are good questions, because this is why we're doing this, to try to reach new audiences. Because when you say concertmaster, you get a lot of weird faces. People are like, wait, you're a master of the concert. So the concertmaster is a title for the first chair violinist. So he's
Uh-huh.
basically the principal. So there are no concertmasters who are cellists or violists or flute players. So every other instrument, the highest rank you can have is principal. So we have a principal cellist, a principal violist, a principal oboist, a principal trumpet player. But for the principal violin, it's called the concertmaster, and in certain parts of Europe, it's called the leader. So the concertmaster's job is a little bit different in every orchestra, and certainly in different countries they have different roles. Here in America, I am basically the right-hand man for the conductor.
Hmm.
I'm half musician, half management. I am the leader when a guest conductor is here. I'm the leader of the organization. I represent the organization. But my initial job, of course, is to do the bowings for the string section, and to lead my section, the first violin section, and then to lead the strings, and then overall to lead the whole orchestra. So it's a complicated question, but and like I said, in different places, it's my role is a little bit different. In Asia, it's a very different role. In Europe, it's a very different role, and in America, it's kind of a little bit of everything.
But you know how you just from how you described it, it just sounded exactly what it was. Concert master. I mean, you were just
Yeah, it's a little.
everything.
But I mean, for those of you who've gone to an orchestra concert, I'm the guy who walks out before the conductor and tunes the orchestra. So
Ah, ah,
that's the one thing that you would see. Oh, you're the guy who walks out and stands and then tunes the orchestra. But
oh.
yeah, so that's the guy, and but that's also not always the case in the UK, for example. The number two, so the associate concertmaster would stand up, tune the orchestra, and then the concertmaster walks out, bows, sits down, conductor comes out, bows, and the concert starts. So even those little things are different in every country.
So you'd have to have a certain background in classical music to understand this, because most people, if they just go, they might just think that he's like a stagehand or something, something really simple, like a grip guy, right?
No, but that was interesting, because first time I played in the UK, like number two stands up, tunes the orchestra. Number one actually never tunes. I was like, wait, when do I get to tune? I mean,
Uh-huh.
what if? And of course, I would tune backstage, but yeah. So I'm used to going out, tuning the orchestra, and tuning
Uh-huh.
myself, of course, and getting ready for the conductor.
So
So
when you,
that's
when you say tuning the orchestra, what are you exactly doing? Are you setting off one like constant like instrument so everyone could match that, or how
right.
does that go?
So the principal oboist gives the A. and that's in every
Ah,
orchestra. The A is provided by the principal oboist. She has a tuner. He or she has a tuner, and then that A is circulated, and we all just play the A, and then we tune the different strings, and then of course in the winds they tune their different notes. Even that's a little bit different too. I mean, in Europe you have the A, and then the oboist gives a B flat for the brass, and that's an easier
uh-huh.
note for them to tune. So again, it's if someone listens to this Zoom and then they go to Europe and like, hey, that guy was lying. You know, what's with the A? There's an A and a B flat, and there's a bunch of different notes. So everywhere's a little bit different. But yeah, when I come out to tune, I'm not tuning everyone's instrument. I'm just giving the ceremonial A for everyone to listen to and tune to.
Dennis, I have a question. I mean, I was just thinking, do you ever get like these diva conductors or something like from Europe or somewhere else who go to another country and like, no, we have to do it my way or something? Is there some of that?
No, yeah, most conductors when they're a visiting guest, they will
Oh,
do what the home
okay.
orchestra does
All right.
usually. That being said, I mean, if someone world famous comes and says, "Can we try this?" I think that no one would
Huh.
disagree. But yeah, even the biggest names when they come to an orchestra and they're guests, they spend the week as a guest and they do whatever what they can, but they won't insist on things usually.
Dennis, you were born in Korea and you grew up in Canada. You played the violin from an early age. Many of us, I think many of us, we don't persevere. All of us have gotten some kind of exposure, as a lot of Asian American kids or Korean American kids do. They get exposure to some kind of a classical instrument, whether it's a piano or a guitar or something, within their childhood. And a lot of people don't hang on to it. They can develop that talent, but you get tired of things. You go through puberty, you get interested in other things, girls, cars, this and that, and you just diverge off. How are you able to stay on with this thing, starting from such an early age? Didn't you ever feel like, gosh, I just want to do something else?
No, that's totally a fair question, and many times in my life I had that feeling. But I guess that's where parents come in and teachers come in to keep you on the right track, to keep you motivated, keep you inspired. From a young age, I love to travel, and I remember the first time I got on a plane, it was because of my violin. You know, from Toronto, I got to go to Vancouver for a competition. I was like, wow, this violin thing
Hmm.
can help me travel. And then from there, I got to do a festival in Japan, and then that led me to Korea, and then I played in Puerto Rico, and I was like, wow, with this violin, I can actually travel. So initially, it was for those reasons. You know, I love seeing other parts of the world, and so I said, well, if I can get you know plane tickets and hotels and actually get some money to travel and play my violin, that sounds like a great thing. So yeah, of course, like you said, growing up, there are lots of times where you want to quit, when other kids are going to birthday parties, you get to practice and you have to go to the conservatory. And I remember for many years, every Saturday I was at the conservatory from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I didn't go to anyone's birthday party because everyone's birthday party was on Saturday. So I mean, those kind of things were very difficult. But then at the end of the day, what I got out of it, out of violin, and the amount of hours I put into it, I think that my life is totally different than what I had hoped for and what I expected. It's like a lot of athletes say. I don't feel like I have a job. I go to the stage and I get to play an instrument, and then someone pays you. So it's actually a great feeling.
Well, I mean, you have a very humble way of answering the questions. Like you're describing it as something that takes me places. It was actually your talent that took you to these places through the violin. I'd like to add. Um, yeah, I really like that answer. It was very humble, very nice. But I think you really made something out of it yourself, not the violin, not the other way around.
No, but
Um,
for a long time, especially when I didn't have a job yet, I would hear about somebody getting a job, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so much better than that person, and they got that job. I don't have a job, and slowly but surely, there are so many people now that are so much better than me who don't have the job that I have, or who have less, or don't have any job at all. So that those numbers have changed. So I fully understand that. I'm very grateful for my position and for the jobs that I've had, and I know that a little bit of luck is always involved. Of course, hard work and all these things are there, but a little bit of luck is always needed.
so like I said, very humble and honest answers. Is there any particular reason you chose the violin, or was it just like, here, play this?
No, like I said, I mean, I think the guy who came in, if he was holding a cello case, maybe I'd be playing cello, or if the guy came in with a trumpet, maybe I'd be a trumpet player somewhere. But yeah, the guy came in with his son, and randomly that guy's name was Denis, and I was like, wait, that's my name. And he was a few years older than me, and he played violin, so I just kind of tagged along for a while. And with technology these days and Facebook, I actually found my very first teacher, and it's amazing to reconnect. And
Wow.
she's still in Canada, and she's still teaching, and she still has a huge class, and it's great to reconnect.
Definitely. So the violin, when you mentioned the trumpet, I remember there's a musician by the name of Lee Ju-hun. He's a trumpet player, did a lot of sessions back in Korea in the pop music scene, also has a jazz band and stuff. But he told me one time, the trumpet is like the cheapest instruments that you could play in any classical music, right? A violin is going to be like, $100,000 or something like that. But a trumpet, he said, you could always get a cheap trumpet and get the most bang for your buck out of it, right? That's what he was saying.
Trumpet and clarinet, I think, are the two instruments. Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
those two, right? Okay, now
Right.
speaking of expensive instruments, you have what's called a 1701 Stradivarius.
I do have I am lucky enough to play a Stradivarius, and even even audience members who don't know anything about music or violin or classical music, they probably heard the name Stradivarius.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of the Rolls Royce of violins. And he's actually a prolific maker. He made lots of instruments, but not all have survived, and many are now in museums and in bank vaults, just sitting there, just appreciating in value. So there aren't that many around. And yeah, luckily I have a chance to play it. I have a donor, Korean American guy actually, who
Wow.
bought this violin as an investment, and he's a good friend of mine, so I get to play it. And I've had a chance to play it for the last 14 years. But yeah, I mean, the day I got this violin, it obviously changed my life. It's incredible in many ways, but I feel like that when I'm sitting on stage with 100 people, that I can still cut through the orchestra. And it's probably not true, but the fact that I feel that, I think that's the important thing. And then when I have a chance to play a solo with the orchestra, then I feel like I have a world-class instrument that can match any violin in the world, of course.
I played classical guitar, and we had to constantly play the guitar. If you leave a guitar just sitting there for a couple months, the guitar, not only does it go out of tune, but the resonance on the wood is a little bit different. I think the less you play it. Um, can you tell us, like, what is it about the Stradivarius that makes it so special? Is it the resonance? And if you don't play it, the sound is better playing it regularly, right?
Wow, this is now we're getting into really serious stuff. I
I'm
thought this was gonna be
sorry.
like
I was just
no, but
curious.
no. This is a talk I have with my first of all with my sponsor, and then with other musicians. Is it good that these instruments are played? And of course, as a musician, absolutely, right? It should be played, it should be heard, it should be enjoyed by the whole world. But my violin, I sweat on it. I play every day on it. Nicks here and there. Um, will my violin be in this kind of condition in 100 years? It won't be. If I put my violin right now in a bank vault in a humidity perfectly, safe place,
Hmm.
in 100 years, this will be exactly in the condition it is now.
Okay. All
And
right.
so in 100 years, they might enjoy this instrument. But again, where's the fine line? And it's tough. And I think that either way, if they're all being played, that might not be the best. And if they're all in museums, and it's not the best. So to try to find the balance, I think is the correct answer. But yeah, I think that's nobody knows what the secret of the Stradivarius is. That's the problem. Is it in the
Huh.
varnish? Because they've obviously replicated these things, measurement wise, the wood from the same area, from the same time, all that stuff, but no one can duplicate what Strat did. And of course, if you go on YouTube, there's always these channels like, oh, let's compare the Stradivarius to a modern violin, which is $5,000, which is better. Yeah, to the untrained ear in a house, it probably
Hmm.
sounds about the same. But you go into a hall like Segerstrom or Disney Hall, and you sit in the back row, and I play on those two instruments, you will hear the difference. And is it $9 million difference? No, I mean, it's hard to say, but there certainly is a difference. And the most important thing is, if you ever went to a player and said, okay, you have these two to pick from, which one would you pick? Not one person would pick the modern instrument. They would
Yeah.
all pick the Stradivarius. And because of the prices now, of course, it's very difficult for musicians to play on these instruments. So that's why I feel very grateful to my donor. But that being said, these instruments are valuable for a reason. They're very rare. I mean, not only do they sound amazing, but they're very rare. And that's and there's famous things are famous for a reason. I've learned recently
Yeah,
also.
definitely. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's something about it. There's some kind of a tone or a resonance about it that's gonna, reach deep into your heart with the right
Absolutely.
fingers. But it's
No.
also got to be the right fingers. It can't just be like anyone else.
When I used to live in Finland, and I had a physiotherapist, and I don't know if you know any Finnish people, but they're very, very direct and very to the point, and there's no small talk.
Uh huh.
And he was like, "No, I read that you have a Stradivarius. Are you good because you have a Stradivarius, or do you have a Stradivarius because you're good?" And I was like, "Oh, that's a tricky question that I'm not sure I want to answer." But no, to be honest, I mean, like I said, the day I got the Strat and the day that I could use the Strat as my own really changed my life, I think.
Yeah,
So.
I could imagine. I mean, it's got to be a mental aspect too, and like a spiritual aspect about it as well.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'm playing a piece of art. When I was in school, actually, me and my roommates, we used to always, whenever we changed our strings, and that's when the violin sounds the brightest, when you change new strings, we would play and be like, "Oh my God, it sounds like a Strad." And now the fact that I play a Strad, it's a little bit humbling. But both of us actually, luckily, I mean, he's a professor now at NEC, New England Conservatory in Boston, but he also has a Strad from a donor. So the two of us actually get to play Strads every day. So we've been very lucky.
So yeah, I mean, so you even practice with the Strad?
That's I only play the Strad if it's an outdoor
Wow.
concert. So even pops concerts, even rock concerts. If it's safe, I'll play the Strad. And I've played the Strad all over the world. I played it in Cuba. I played it in Lebanon. I played it in every part of Korea, many parts of China, all over Europe. So yeah, this Strat in the last 14 years has played everywhere.
Dennis, if classical musicians, they have a way of interpreting or quote unquote interpreting the music differently. They want to be able to play a certain way. What are you thinking when you're playing, and what does that mean when you're interpreting the music to the general audience?
So, especially with classical music, our goal, I think, our main goal is to do what the composer wants or intended. So, we're not like jazz musicians where we just kind of improvise. But that being said, especially with new music, sometimes the performers can add stuff to the piece that the composer didn't even think of. So, especially in this first concert when we're playing this new piece, it's written by our friend Sheridan, but I'm sure that the three of us, we haven't got together and played it yet because it's still being finished. But I'm sure we're going to add our personality, our suggestions, the way we play it. So notes just on a page, it doesn't mean anything, but we try to bring something of ourselves into the music, and that's I think that's our every musician's goal, to add a little bit of themselves into their performance. And yeah, like I said, unlike jazz musicians, there's not much improvising, but
Mhm.
still with the same notes, every person can play something totally different.
Speaking of improvising, do you ever improvise in the middle? Just go off of the what's on the notes?
Absolutely not.
Oh, really? Okay.
Not with classical music, anyways. I mean, there's
Okay.
sometimes, you were talking about sessions. Sometimes in sessions they say, just improvise, or around this note, play a few, improvise, and there's things like that. But as a classical musician, we're trained not to improvise so much. And of course, classical musicians, some of them play jazz and some of them learn how to improvise. But the classical field, except for the idea of the cadenza, which is even now, we write down our cadenzas now, and we kind of do a written down improvisation. So it's a little bit different than jazz musician or rock musicians.
Okay, just another dumb question. This is just popped up in my head. I was really curious about this. So you could just go, you could play the viola if you wanted, right? I mean, you could just play something else, like, right? You could do that.
So I mean I don't know if you know, but the violists are, I would say, the butt of everyone's joke in classical music.
Oh,
So there are 1,000 viola jokes. I don't even know why,
uh-huh.
because the viola is a beautiful instrument. But yeah, traditionally, it's the ugly stepchild of the violin.
Oh,
But the big viola joke is, what does a violinist do better than a violist? And that's play the viola. And it's only funny and hurtful because it's true. A lot of violence they switch last minute to viola to get into college, or they finish undergrad.
Oh.
They finish undergrad in violin, and then they play 6 months of viola, and they get into the New York Phil. And these stories are way too common, and that's what kills violists. But that being said, a violist can play violist, but if you've been trained on viola, you'll obviously be a better violist. So I can't just pick up.
So I take it that the violin is a more preferred for many people.
I mean, it plays the melody, and it's what no one starts. Well, not that, better not say that. But as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, nobody starts on the viola. They all start, either on the piano or the violin, and then from there they can move to the viola. But usually, no one starts on the viola. Some kids now, especially if they start a little later, 9, 10 years old, they might start on the viola, but still traditionally, I think learning the basics on the violin is easier, and then moving on to the viola. But no, it's a question I get asked all the time. Is that all you do? You play violin? Do you also compose? Do you conduct? Do you sing? I just play violin. The maximum I do singing wise is norebang, karaoke stuff, and then I play very, very bad piano. And I don't do any composing, and so yeah, playing violin is a full-time job.
Well, I mean, it's a full-time job that pays very well and is leading you to a lot of different places with that mixed bag of goodies there. I think, classical music is the epitome of competitive. I guess it's such a competitive realm to get in there, and there's so many young musicians out there that are getting inspired to do what you did and walk the steps that you've walked. What do you want to tell them? What are some things that you want to tell them?
Wow. Especially in this area down here in Orange County, you have kids who are so talented, and they could easily be musicians if they decided that that's what they wanted. But you look in the youth orchestra, and out of 100 kids, I'm going to say, less than 10 are going into music for college. And for me, I understand that making money is important. I understand, working at Google, Facebook, becoming a doctor, all that's important. But if you know that you are a musician, no matter what your parents say, no matter what society says, I think that you will be a musician. I know a lot of kids, who, because of especially parents saying, oh, you can't go into music, you got to be a doctor, you got to be a lawyer. They finish undergrad, they actually become a doctor, and then they decide, what, I'm not a doctor. I'm a violinist. I'm a singer. I'm a pianist. So to anyone out there who's not sure, but they love music, they're not sure if they can make a living. Money is not the most important thing. I think happiness. I think doing what you love. I think that might be there's value in that. So that's something that I tell a lot of my students, because if you say to me, I want to play violin, but I also want to make $1 million a year. Yeah, that's probably not the right field. But that being said, I know a lot of people making $1 million who are miserable and who hate their life. But if you love music and this is what you want to do, I think that you might have to do it, and that's what I tell a lot of my students. And like you said, with the competitiveness, but I don't think it's more competitive than other fields. I mean, in any field these days, it's so hard to succeed, and I think music is just the same as anything else. So I don't think it's more competitive. It's just you see more competitions and you see more YouTube. But I think to become a great doctor is just as hard as to become a great violinist or pianist.
Like I said, you speak from a very humble mindset, and I love that about you. But what you've accomplished. I mean, let's not take away anything from that. What you've accomplished, what you're doing right now, it's not any average Joe can do that. Denis, you have a performance coming up, the trio Barclay. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. So, like I said earlier, this is the first, like the debut recital of our trio, and we're called the trio Barclay because we have this relationship with the Barclay Theater here in Irvine, and we'll be playing 3 concerts this year, and to have this kind of relationship with this kind of major hall is such an opportunity. So we feel like anyone who comes to the first concert, we guarantee you'll buy tickets for the second and third concert. We have that kind of confidence. We'll play with an energy that you won't be you'll be surprised by the energy on stage. And it won't be like coming to a big concert hall where we're kind of in the distance. It's the Irvine Theater is very intimate, 750 seats. We'll be close. I mean, safely close, of course, but close enough that you can hear us breathe, that you can watch us play, and it's an evening that you won't forget. But it's yes, the 27th of June, a Sunday at 5 p.m. So we try to pick a time that families could come also, not too late. And it's music that is not too difficult to understand. It's music that everyone can appreciate, and especially the new piece. I promise you, it's something that you'll love. It won't be atonal. It won't be difficult to understand. And like I said, we are sure that if you come to the first concert, that you'll be coming to the second and third concerts.
All right, that's Trio Barclay. That's playing on the 27th of June, 2021, Sunday at 5 p.m. at the Irvine Barclay Theater. And that's Denis Kim on the violin, Jonah Kim on the cello, and Sean Kennard on the piano. Just one last question before we go. Can you clear up this clapping thing? Clapping, when are we supposed to clap when it comes to, when's the applause supposed to come out? I think there's a lot of confusion with that.
So first of all, you can clap whenever you want. If you feel inclined, you can clap whenever you want. But traditionally, you're supposed to clap at the end of the piece. But I promise you, if at the end of the first movement, if you feel like that was amazing and you clap, yes, you might have someone beside you look at you funny and give you side eye, but us on stage will be grateful because, yeah, I mean, I think clapping means that you appreciate it and you enjoy yourself instead of like, oh, I just get off the stage. If it's that kind of clapping, yes, it's not so polite. But if you feel like, oh my gosh, that was amazing, and you can't stop, you can't help but clap, I don't think anyone will complain. But traditionally speaking, yeah, at the end of the piece is when people clap usually. And just a little thing about the Shostakovich, it ends very soft, and actually that has caused problems in other places when people clap too soon after the last note, because to keep the ambiance, and especially in this kind of, it's a very spiritual piece, the Shostakovich, again, I don't want to give too much away, but it ends softly anyways. And sometimes we play this and yeah, and sometimes we finish and then someone's like, doesn't know that, oh, okay, that was great. And then it just breaks the mood. But again, that being said, I mean, I don't think anyone's doing it on purpose. I mean, they're doing it with no bad intentions. So
don't be that guy.
Yeah, but to answer your question, if you feel like you need to clap, please clap. We appreciate it, especially during Corona right now when we haven't seen people, and clap whenever you want.
Sounds great, Denis. I'm going to try to make some time down to see you guys over there at the Barclay.
No, that'd be great.
Thank you for joining us today.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you. Thank you.